Morning, everybody. Dr. Arafat here, Vet Triage, 10:49 a.m. Pacific Time, August 13. We're going to talk about how to locate emergency care for your pet. And thank you for those who watch the playback. Please feel free to subscribe and share and like and do all the things. It's becoming increasingly more difficult for people who have pet emergencies or what they perceive to be a pet emergency to locate emergency care. This is due to a number of reasons. Some folks just live in remote areas, and they don't think about this ahead of time when they move somewhere, or they had no choice but to move somewhere. There are increasing cultural issues with the work-life balance and the workflow in veterinary medicine. So emergency hospitals are frequently reaching capacity or closing down their hours. Things like that. And so that doesn't help, of course, especially when you're used to being a 24/7 emergency hospital. There's also things like inclement weather, for example, that can prohibit people from accessing emergency care. Then you have the problem of cost. Finances are an issue. Veterinary medicine is getting more and more expensive, almost ridiculously so. And so that's been a problem as well to accessing veterinary care. Then you have other things like language barriers. Obviously I'm in America, and so the vast majority of the veterinary hospitals are going to speak English. Maybe once in a while you'll have a staff member who speaks Spanish, which is of course a very common language in the States. Otherwise, it's a matter of just trying your best. So that makes things a bit difficult too. Yeah, and so there's just a few reasons why you can't find emergency care. So there's a couple of options for how to handle this problem, and I'll just say it right off the bat. At the end, I'll try to convince you why vet triage is the way to go for this type of problem. But of course, the most common thing people do is they usually Google. They'll try and Google what hospitals are near them. There's a couple of problems with that, a couple of challenges. Number one, I've been finding that the hours listed on Google for a lot of establishments are incorrect. They're inaccurate. They're not up to date, and they're usually for the worse. It's usually like it says, they're open and they're actually open less than what they're saying, or they're closed on a certain day where it says they're opened. And secondly, the other problem with Googling emergency hospitals is that you don't know which emergency hospital can handle your case. There are some cases that are surgical emergencies, but not every hospital can handle surgeries in the middle of the night or at all. Some cases require a CAT scan or MRI and spine surgery, things like that. And most places don't have that. They have to refer you somewhere. So you might be driving somewhere, let's say for, 2-hour drive to get to the emergency hospital. You have a 6-hour wait because they deemed your pet, not critical. So you can't jump the line. And then once they meet with you, they say, oh, yeah, so this condition requires referral to a neurologist or a neurosurgeon, and that's 3 hours the other way or whatever. And so now you have to go there and then deal with that with their limitations. So you want to make sure if you're going to go to the emergency hospital that you're going to the place that can handle your case. And you won't know that as a pet owner, right? You're freaked out, you're stressing out about your pet being sick or injured. You're not thinking about those details. You don't even know what the problem with your pet is, let alone if you need to go to a specific hospital with a specific need. So that's another concern with Googling things. And the other limitation to access to care is species differences. Most hospitals in the U.S. are small animal, so dogs and cats. And they may or may not be equipped to handle anything else like gerbils or hamsters, chinchillas, ferrets, avian, reptiles, amphibians. And on the large animal side, there are some places that are equine only. There are some that are bovine only or whatever. But finding a mixed animal vet is becoming more and more difficult. And it's been that way for 15, 20 years now, because most veterinarians go to school with a goal in mind to work on a specific species, not working on all the species, even though you're licensed to. So back to Googling. So Googling can help, but it's not always accurate, and for the reasons I mentioned. The other option is there are platforms and apps out there to try to connect you with emergency hospitals. They're basically like a phone book of addresses or establishments, and there's problems there too. Number one, if these apps or whatever are free, well, you kind of get what you pay for. They're not going to be that much better than like Google or something. And if you are paying for it, you're paying, just to be told where to go without any specifics to what I mentioned earlier. Does that hospital handle gerbils? Does that hospital perform emergency surgeries or whatever? So that's a concern too. But there are apps out there that can help with that. It's just that they're not going to be as fine-tuned as you speaking to a veterinarian, and you still have to find those apps, and none of them are really that popular. I don't even know any company names offhand. I just know that they exist because they've approached me to partner with Vet Triage. The third way people try to find emergency care is they call their family vet, and the family vet will have on their answering machine or on their website all the options that they recommend for emergency care. Difficult thing about that is you've got to call them, wait for the voicemail, and then they give you a list of facilities, which helps you because usually those things are up to date, but you don't know which case can be handled by which hospital. Even though they recommend those hospitals, you may not know where the appropriate place to go is. And there are some places where these hospitals, let's say there's 4 options for you, they're in all different directions. And so you pick one and that's where you're driving to. And then if you have to get turned around, you're driving double. So double the distance. And then finally, there's Vet Triage. Vet Triage will first of all figure out if you have an emergency or not. And we find that over 80% do not actually have emergencies. And so for the most part, when you call Vet Triage, you're probably going to figure out that you don't have to go and drive 2 hours and wait 6 hours and spend hundreds or thousands of dollars on emergency care because it's not needed. And we'd rather you wait for your family vet to open the next day. We'll give you advice and monitoring instructions until your family veterinarian is open. If you do have an emergency, which is less than 20%, well, we have our protocols in place for your family veterinarian who's partnered with us. And so it'll tell us what emergency hospitals are there, and we will call them for you so that we can make sure that if we send you there, are they going to handle your case appropriately? What's the wait time like? Are they capacity? We don't want you driving 2 hours somewhere for them just to tell you, sorry, you can't help you with a sick or injured animal. So we'll make that referral for you. We'll make the phone call for you. And those two aspects are invaluable. It's $50 US for non-horse pets. And then for horses, it's 75 US. In Canada, it's a little bit more with the conversion. In Australia, it's the same price as US, $15.75. And it's a limited time for our live video with the veterinarian. Plus, we'll email you our recommendations. Plus, we'll also share it with your family veterinarian. And also, let's say we deem your case to not be an emergency, but something happens after you're done with the video call, you can email or call us back for free. And we will answer your questions, concerns, change the plan if we need to, whatever it may be. So yeah, these are all your options as far as I know with how to find emergency care for your vet, for your pet rather. And I'll say, if 100 people watch this video, and 80 of them are going to find out that when they use Vet Triage, they don't have an emergency, and they were stressing out and concerned about a potential emergency that wasn't actually a true medical emergency. So the other 20% of you will get peace of mind in knowing, yes, you have an emergency, and let's call you in, and we're going to figure out where you should go. So yeah, and I think I should do it for this video. Hopefully that helps. Thanks to those again who watched the playback, and feel free to support the channel. I will be on again tomorrow, August 14th. It might be a later time tomorrow. Let's see. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It actually might be very early in the morning. But anyway, I'll try to make it on tomorrow. And thanks for everybody who watches. We'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.